Call the next speaker, Baroness Bennett of Manor Castle.
My Lords, I can only begin speaking on this amendment today by taking a moment to think of the victims of the Atlanta Spa shootings and their families. It's very early to understand motives for a mass deadly attack, but it's hard not to suspect a link to the kind of hate crime and possibly intersectional hate crime that we're discussing today. Now, I want to pay tribute to the noble Baroness Lady Kennedy of Cradley and the noble Lords Russell of Liverpool and Young of Cookham for their work in this amendment and their powerful presentations for it. Had I known there was a space, I or my noble friend Baroness Jones of Moulscombe, who backed a similar amendment in committee, would certainly have joined them. So I will be fairly brief, noting the intervention we've just had. But it's important to note that this amendment marks a potential national step forward for a grassroots movement that, as other noble lords have noted, started in Nottingham. This amendment is not, as the noble Lord Paddock identified, gone as far as Nottingham in data collection, but it's certainly a step in that direction. The recording of misogyny by police in Nottingham can only be taken as a case study of how political campaigning works and how grassroots community-centred action can make a big difference in the individual community and far beyond. Now 11 out of 43 police constabularies in England and Wales have made recording of misogyny a hate crime part of their practices. They've tried, or they are actively considering the policy. Now, how did this all start? It started with a community group called Citizens Nottingham, who conducted a survey that found 38% of women reporting a hate crime explicitly linked to their gender, and that 1 in 5 hate crimes that took place were reported. Nottingham Women's Centre held a conference about street harassment, at which the police commissioner asked women who'd experienced misogyny to raise their hands. The police commissioner, Paddy Tipping, was quoted as saying afterwards, "I just thought people shouldn't be treated like this." And since the change has been made in the police recording in Nottingham, reports indicate that women say they've been able to walk down the street with their heads held higher. And debate and action has made a lot of men recognise the extent of problems. My Lords, I urge the House to listen to the experiences of the women of Nottingham, the women in increasing areas of the country who have had their experience understood and recorded, and apply that to the victims of domestic abuse. Now, my Lords, the noble Baroness Lady Fox linked the amendment and support for it to the current level of rightful anger in the country following the death of Sarah Everard. But as the noble Lord Russell pointed out, the proposal originates far before that. And indeed, I have to pay tribute to the Deputy Leader of the Green Party of England and Wales, Amelia Womack, who has bravely publicly identified herself as a victim of domestic abuse and has been campaigning on this issue for many years. And in response to the concerns from the noble Baroness Lady Fox about potential confusion, any examination of what's happened in Nottingham shows real-world experience does not demonstrate significant difficulties. Now, it's often said we have an epidemic of misogyny and violence against women, but my science background makes me want to be precise in my use of epidemiological wording. We have endemic misogyny to define a disease that is always present in a certain population or region. Smallpox, my Lords, was once an endemic disease in much of the world. We have almost eradicated it. We need to have the same target in mind, as distant as it may look, for misogyny. That's the only way that women and girls can be safe. I don't think I can put it any better, so I'll finish by quoting Mel Jeffs, the former CEO of the Nottingham Women's Centre. "Misogyny is the soil in which violence against women grows." Thank you, my Lords.